Okay, on to the box dev. Now, let me preface this with it is raining pretty bad here, so if you hear thunderstorms or anything in the back, consider it part of the ambiance. But we're going to do another box from Alec. Thank you, Alec, for creating this wonderful machine. And this box is a Linux machine, so you should already have it set up. We're past the setup stage. You should know how to set it up. Come in here. I already have an mmap scan ran against it. So if you do not have an mmap scan ran against it, you should go ahead and do that. Pause if you need to. Otherwise, you could just follow along. So running the mmap scan, we can see that we have port 22 SSH. And remember what we said about SSH? Well, we're not going to look at it right now. It's nothing that's, at least in my experience, I've ever found an exploit for. So unless we have credentials or something for that, we're not going to get into SSH. We have something on port 80 called Bolt installation error for Apache web server. Okay, that's an indicator this might be a Linux machine already because we're seeing Debian. That's a nice indication. We have RPC bind, which we can enumerate RPC, though it's not that advantageous for us right this instant. That gets into more advanced stuff. Honestly, as a beginner, we're going to leave RPC alone, though there is some information gathering that you can get out of RPC. As of right now, we're going to just kind of push it to the side because we've got more important things to focus on and more common things to focus on. So we have 2049 NFS, which is a network file share. Think of it like almost like SMB, like Samba for file sharing. This is a network file share. We can potentially mount to a file share here, so that might be of interest for us. We also have HTTP here for 8080. It just says connection Apache Debian PHP info page. We've got some Mount D and nlock manager. We're not going to worry about any of these ports. Which stand out to me are 8080, 2049, and 80. Okay, so keep those in mind. As you go through these more, as you get better at this, it'll be easier for you to understand which ports you're looking for, which ports you can kind of just throw to the side for now. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at 80. We're going to take a look at 8080. Then we'll take a look at the network file share. So going out to the web page, I have Google open. I'm just going to go 192.168.138.137. Go here, and I'm also going to copy this and take this out to port 8080. And you can see that we have a couple of pages. One is a Bolt installation error page, which is interesting. We can come out and look at this. It looks like there's something called Bolt. We can actually go to the real web page here and see what's running. Bolt CMS. So we'll keep that in mind. Maybe they're running Bolt CMS. We could put that in our back pocket in our notes. It looks like there's an installation error. It's talking about the folder that should be installed in, which these are Linux folders. So this is more indication that we're likely attacking a Linux machine here. So we can do some research on this, but let's put that in our back pocket for now. Other website here is on port 8080. We're getting a PHP info page, which is nice. Sometimes this can disclose some information. You can actually read through this and see like here's the path, here's like the webmaster, here's the IP address that we're pointing at. So there's some different things in here that we can look at, and possibly if we were attacking this page, there could be some information disclosure in here that could tell us what the setup is of this PHP page, and that could tell us like, hey, maybe there's file inclusion, maybe there's uploading allowed, different attacks that might be enabled because of a setting that is configured or misconfigured in this PHP myinfo type page, so or PHP info page. So we have two pages here that are, I mean, there's nothing really there. It's just like, hey, PHP info, Bolt, installation error. So we kind of want to look under the hood. This is just common tactic here that we're going to open up a new tab. I'm going to open up two of them. And we're really just going to enumerate this a little bit further. I just want to see how far we can take this. If it is what it is, like port 80 is literally just a Bolt installation error page, that's fine. But we need to confirm that. So we're going to use FFuff, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to do a quick scan on this. And we're going to do a user share wordless. And then I go to Durbuster. And just like before, you can just tab. And I use the medium word list. I put a colon. I don't know how to, if you know the trick of getting it to line up immediately after, let me know. Otherwise, just go delete that one space. We can fuzz here, and then we could do a URL of HTTP 192.168.138.137 for this machine /fuzz. Now, before you hit enter, go ahead and copy this. It'll make life easier. Hit enter, let that bad boy run, come in here, paste again. And all we're gonna do on this one is we're gonna put 8080 at the end of it. So we're gonna fuzz against 8080 and port 80. And we're gonna let these run a little bit. Okay, so we'll let these run, perhaps finish, see if we can get anything of interest out here. While they're running, we can multitask. This is part of the process, by the way. As an ethical hacker or hacker in general, multitasking is important because if you're on an engagement like a pen test, you're going to be doing a lot of things at once. Because imagine a situation where you have 1,000 IP addresses and you have a week to go against them. If you only have a week to do 1,000 IP addresses, you're talking like a few minutes per IP address to look at. So you really have to identify and scan for low-hanging fruit, figure out which IP addresses are the most advantageous, go touch on those more, and perhaps be spending a couple minutes on each at the same time while you're doing this. So it's advantageous to look at multiple things, have scans running, and be bouncing back and forth from an ethical hacking perspective, and you pick up the ability to multitask over time. So anyway, we have this NFS, this network file share, and I'm curious if there's anything there. So what we can do, I'm going to go ahead and just open up a new tab, make this a little bit bigger. What we can do is we can say show mount. This is a command already built into your machine. If you're familiar with Linux, you probably know this. Put an E there. We're just going to list out the directory that's here, the mounted file share. Hopefully that there's one. Okay, and we're exporting from here this. Okay, this is the file share that's offered up. So we've got, looks like server NFS, network file share. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to go ahead and utilize this to our advantage. We're going to mount and see what we can see in this share. So in order to do that, we need to make a directory to mount to. So I'm just going to make a directory called mount, MNT. We have an MNT folder by default. And then I'm just going to call this dev since that's the name of the machine. All right, and then we're going to mount this. So we're going to say mount tact NFS. So this is the type, it's NFS. And we're going to say 192.168.138.137. And then we're going to do server NFS. Okay, so we're calling out on this machine is this server NFS or SRV NFS. And then we're going to put it in mount dev, just like that. All right, so now we can go cd into mount dev ls, and you can see that there is a file in there. That file is called save.zip. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to unzip that. And it says, hey, we need a password to unzip this ID RSA file. I have no idea what the password is, so looks like there's an ID RSA in here and a todo.txt, and we don't have the password for either of these. Now, there's a possibility that we go online, we look through some of these folders, maybe something comes back, there's a password in there, that's the path to go. The other thing that we can do is see if we can crack this very quickly. If we can crack it, then maybe we can get in there. And there's a tool out there called fcrackzip. So we can do something called like apt install fcrack zip, just like this. And I've already got it installed, but you should not. It doesn't come by default. Okay, go ahead, let that install. Should only take a second, and then come back. And now we're going to do fcrack zip, just like that. Yours might not auto tab. You might just have to type it out. That's okay. -V for verbose. We want to have verbosity here. See all the output. -U just means we're going to be unzipping. So we're going to unzip the files here. And a -D means we're going to be using a dictionary attack. And a -P means we're going to be using a file in order to attack. So the dictionary attack we're using is the user share wordless, and then we're going to use rocku. Okay. And on this other part, for the -p, we're going to go ahead and use this save.zip. So we're using a string here as the initial password file, which is what we're doing. If we didn't have this here, it would just start attacking via the files inside. So we're calling out specifically, and then here we're saying we're using a word list. Here's the word list we're using. So I'm gonna go ahead and run that, hit enter. Okay, and you can see that we have found password is equal to Java 101. So now if we go to unzip save.zip, type in Java 101, hit enter. Okay, we ls, they should be here now. So let's cat out the todo.txt. It says, figure out how to install the main website properly. The config file seems correct. Update development website. Keep coding in Java because it's awesome. And then we get a signature from JP. We don't know who JP is, but we do get an ID RSA file. So that ID RSA file can be used in order to connect via SSH. Now, we don't know who the user is. There's a chance that the user might be JP, so we can do something like SSH-I. I'm not sure if the permission settings here are going to be correct on this ID RSA file. We'll see here in a quick second. And then we come in here and we say something like JP at 192.168.138.137. Cross your fingers, type yes. It asks for his password. We don't know a password. So we're not even sure if that's working. We're not sure. It didn't even look like it took the ID RSA. So we're not sure if this guy's even a user. So let's keep this information in our back pocket for now. We have this, we're gonna clear screen. We have this ID RSA file, and we have some information hopefully sitting here waiting for us. So on the port 80 side, we have a public 301, we have a source 301, we have an app 301, vendor extensions. Okay, so maybe we come in here and we take a look at that. Also on this side, we have a dev directory. So if we go in here and we just /dev, we are brought to this bolt wire application, which is cool. On here, we have a few different directories that came back. Let's see. We have public source app, so we can kind of go through those manually. Just public, see what's there. Nothing's there. Bolt user first, it says. Source site. We get a customization extension PHP. I don't know if there's anything in there. You could open that. Doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere. Next, we go to app. Kind of come through here, and this is where we find a directory. And I think I said in one of the past videos that it's kind of realistic. I have seen this actually on a pen test before, where you come across a directory, and this directory listing can be a finding. One time I literally came in here and the first thing sitting at the top of the directory was SQL database with all the passwords and information in here. So looks like there's a Bolt database in here, though the size is 0. I clicked through here earlier, trying to click around, see if I could find anything. Cache is interesting, but config would probably be more interesting, especially a config.yaml file. So I went ahead and just downloaded that, and then I have it stored here. I'm going to go ahead and just open that up, and I encourage you to do the same. Open with mousepad, open with whatever you like. Here you can see that it says, hey, the username's Bolt and the password is I love Java. So I'm going to copy this. We don't know where this works, if this pays off for anything anywhere, but we're going to save this information kind of in our back pocket. So I'm going to do a new tab in here and just paste that because that's some information that we got. So the other side of things is that we also have a Bolt wire application. And we can come in here and look around. It looks like there's a registration page. Might be able to register like hacker and password hacker. Come in here. And it doesn't look like it's letting us do anything else. So we're clicking around. We got some search features. It doesn't look like it's doing anything. Can print some information on the site. So it's best to click around, see if there's anything of interest in here, but I'm not seeing anything at this point in time of interest. So as of right now, I'm curious as to this Bolt wire, if there's anything any vulnerabilities that exist. So we can go out to Google. Actually, I have Google open right here, and we can just say like bolt wire exploit and see what comes up. Now there's one from 2020. There's one from 2012. I'm going to use the more recent one, this local file inclusion. We could also search this on our Kali machine, by the way. We can go in and just do like a, let's see, we can do a search exploit and just do bolt wire and see what comes back. And you can see that all that shows up are multiple cross-site scripting, which cross-site scripting is not going to have any effect for us. Like putting cross-site scripting here isn't going to do anything on a box like this unless they are from a CTF standpoint, unless there is somebody mimicking a user going in and actually navigating the website. There's no use for even attacking cross-site scripting. That's not to say that this is not a great vulnerability and this is something that you would see in the real world. You absolutely do. But we attack real users with this. That's part of it, because you store cross-site scripting or you store JavaScript and you attack users with that. We're not attacking any users. We're just attacking this box at this time. So what we're going to do then is probably really focus on this local file inclusion. So let's take a look at it and open this up. We'll talk about local file inclusion, what that is, what it might be. So really quickly, local file inclusion allows us to potentially expose files that are running on a server. And this can lead to information disclosure, as you're going to see here, remote code execution, cross-site scripting. There's a lot of things that it can do. So basically what's happening is it is accepting this path here as input. It's a coding error on the development side. So we're able to input this, and what we're doing, .. // Imagine you're in a Linux machine. We're literally just saying, hey, I want to go back as far as possible to a base directory, and then etc password. Okay. So this could be as many directories as needed. You could throw in 10 of these and it might work. And then we're trying to get the etc password because this will allow us to see who's on the machine running. Now, if this is running as a root user, then guess what? We can run this as etc shadow and go grab the hash, and maybe we have even more sensitive information. But this attack by itself is pretty cool and is it's not seen in the wild as much, but it is definitely out there. So it's something we test for on every web application. So what we're going to do here is we're looking for local files. Remember, this is local file inclusion. So no remote files, which is a different type of attack. LFI here, not RFI. So it looks like we're using action, search, action, and then this attack frame here. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy this. I'll show you why. Because I was looking at the application, and you can see that here's the index.php, p equals welcome. In here, it's very similar, p equals action.search. So this is on the search feature, it looks like it's happening, or on the action parameter. So we're going to go ahead and paste that in here. Make sure you've created an account, by the way. If you do not have an account created for this, then it is not going to work. I don't know if that says that in here, that you need to be authenticated or not. Oh, it does. Being authenticated. So if you're not authenticated, it will not work. So you can come in here, just come over here and paste, cross your fingers, and it works. So one thing I want to try real quick is like etc shadow. Nothing. It was worth a shot. You never know. So we're not running as a user that can read the etc shadow file. So in this instance, we're just looking at a user that can read the etc password. That's okay. We're not a high level user here. And what we can do is we scroll down to the bottom. We always know root's at the top. Scroll down to the bottom to see who your users might be. And out of anything that stands out in here, there's only one user, and that is our friend JP, who looks like his name is Jean-Paul. So I think we have a user here. So this explains why the JP didn't work for us before when we tried logging in on the machine, because John Paul was the user that we had, and he wasn't on that machine. So we were looking for John Paul. So now we found a little bit more information, and we can tie this all together, hopefully, and actually exploit this machine. So I'm going to go back. Where was the mount that I had? I'm going to go back in here and try SSHing again with this file and do a Jean Paul. And it's asking for a password key phrase. Okay, so there are two options that we can do here. Option number 1 is you are capable of brute forcing this key ID RSA. John the Ripper can take this and push it through. The issue is if the password doesn't show up in your word list, or the password is too strong, for example, then it's not going to work. We also have some information that we found before that might work out for us. We already know that John Paul, or JP, said in his to-do that he is a lover of what? Java. And he comes in here and we have a password saying, I love Java. Now, my hunch is this probably doesn't show up in RockU, and we can do a quick check on that actually. So let's just do a cat user share word list RockU like this, and you can just watch, and then we're just going to grep on this password. It doesn't show up. Like where if you wanted to grep on like pasta, you could see all the different times pasta shows up in this word list. So that if we were to run RockU against this with the word list, it wouldn't have worked. Now if we would have had a really good word list, possibly it shows up, but we already know a little bit about him. We're going to go ahead and try pasting that in, and of course it works. Jean-Paul really loves Java. So Jean-Paul at dev has logged in, and now we are the low-level user. So do a quick ls print working directory. We're in his home folder. There's nothing here. Some things that I like to do immediately: history check. Okay, it looks like somebody cleared out the history. Somebody ran a sudo-l in here, exited. Sudo-l is the second check that I like to do, or even first check that I like to do, because it tells us what we can run as sudo without a password. Okay, so sudo, remember, is what we can run as elevated privileges. So in this instance, we can run the zip feature with no password. So we can literally run sudo zip and it should work. Okay, so it's not requiring a password. Awesome. Issue here. How can we take sudo zip and abuse that feature for us to be able to escalate into root? That is the question. If we have a no password, which this comes up a lot in boxes like this, like CTF style boxes, if we have a no password, how can we do this? So we need to go take a look at that. We come over here. I got a site for you. Go out to the Google machine. Okay, and you're going to type in GTFO bin. Just like that. It's really GTFO bins, but we took what showed up first. Okay, GTFO bins. Great website. Let's make it bigger. Great website. You come in here. You can look for the different type of escalations that you want. We have a sudo escalation. Okay, sudo escalation. And we come in here, we say, okay, we've got sudo, and then we're looking for zip. We can type in zip in the search bar, but we also have zip right here. So if we want to do a sudo zip, we go into zip, look for sudo, and it says, here's how you use sudo as a zip in order to get root privileges. Okay. And so it says in here, if the binary is allowed to run as a super user by sudo, it does not drop the elevated privileges and may be used to access the file system, escalate, or maintain privilege access. It's telling us what it's doing. All we have to do here is copy this, come over, paste this, okay, come back, copy this. This should drop us into a shell. Let's see what happens. All right, we have been dropped into a shell here. As sudo, we dropped into a shell. So with that, if we type in ID, we are now root. Why? Because sudo runs elevated. We said, okay, as elevated user, we want to go ahead and drop into a shell here. We did this. Now we can go cd to root, ls, cat out our flag. Congrats on rooting this box. And that's it. So hopefully that was informative for you. This was a little bit on the, I would say, easier side of the machines. We're trying to go in order of difficulty. This one is something that you get a few different options for you. It shows you how to mount. It shows you how to enumerate multiple web directories and really tie a bunch of information together, which is nice. And then you get to see a classic sudo no password escalation, this time using zip. But if you see in the GTFO bins, when we went back and just highlighted sudo, there are a lot of escalations if sudo privileges are enabled in order to get into to go from low level to root. So it's quite fun and quite common, by the way. So that's it for this video. I will go ahead and see you in the next one.